Now? Yeah? Okay. So anyone else who is at the door, wait them in. You guys are welcome to join at any point. But yeah, okay, so thanks for being here. This morning we are talking a little bit about AI and how it's showing up on campus for us. And since this is a panel discussion, we needed to really kick this off by doing introductions of who we all are. So my name is Joe Prochek. I'm Michelle on the screen, but I am Joe Prochek. I work with centers. I was the AVP of Talent and Innovation. I was a rec director in a previous life at 2 different institutions, and so rec is for sure my passion, and the people of recreation are my absolute favorite. So thanks for letting me be here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Fralick. I'm the Executive Director for University Recreation and Wellbeing at Cleveland State University. Our department manages and supervises actually 3 operations on campus. So the Recreation Center, which includes our programs, services, and facilities. We have the Student Center operations, and then we also manage conference and event services.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Booth as well. That's my fault. No, my name is Matt Schmiedel. I'm the Enterprise Marketing Manager for Centers, and I'm also the founder and chair of our AI Council, which we all participate in.
I knew you all wanted to be me. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Muth. I'm the Director of Campus Recreation at Marshall University. I also have 2 items on my campus that I manage. I manage the Rec Center, and I also manage the Henderson Center Pool, which is the collegiate pool run by the university, but now it's run by me. So it's better now.
So Michelle really deserves the credit for getting us all together and having this proposal submitted to NIRSA. She's been, alongside Matt, really the 2, those are our 2 champions across our center's company for AI, learning and exploration and adoption. So I'm emceeing, but only because Michelle told me I needed to. This was her brainchild for sure. But part of where AI across our company came from was with Matt. He had been attending a number of conferences and doing his own kind of learning and development. And several years ago was like, wow, this is going to be big and we need to do something about it. And so he really instigated and took leadership for our entire company and organization about doing something about it. And since my role for our company is related to learning and development and the continuing education of our professional staff, I got involved to help sort of support Matt, clear pathways, and then try to figure out how we were going to deploy some training to all of our people within our organization. And Nick is really great about being involved in pretty much everything we have going on. And so he was also an early adopter. So sort of where this presentation came from was born out of the work we were doing inside our company and knowing that you all might face similar challenges of what do I do with this thing and how do I get it to my people. So with that, let's get into some questions and some discussion.
So before we get started, we're not going to be doing any icebreakers, thankfully. I'm sure many people in this room, but we would like to do the 3-question participation survey just to evaluate who's in the room and what your framework is with artificial intelligence. So this is a Menti, so you can either go to menti.com and put in the passcode, or you can also scan the QR code. So we'll kind of allow people the next 30 seconds to put in their answers. So as we go through this, and we were talking about these 3 questions, there were very different opinions on how people would answer. We figured people that might, some of us thought that people that are attending this already know all about AI. And I said, I don't know about that. I said, a lot of the people that are attending this session might not know anything about AI, and they're coming to learn a little bit more about that. So we're kind of interested in seeing how this is going to play out. And obviously, as the numbers are coming in, it looks like we're right in the middle, actually, which is good. So that should be able to help us. We'll go to the next one. So this one is, how comfortable do you feel using AI tools or technologies in your current role? So we're right in the middle for at least folks that know what AI is, which is good. Looks like we're getting in the middle again on this one. So it looks like we have some early adopters in the room, which is very good. Probably not too many experts, which not many of us are, unless you work for OpenAI. And then it looks like some folks more or less on the backside of that of like, hey, I'm an early adopter, but I want to learn more. So that makes sense. All right, and our very last one. Which statement best describes, now this is your campus's approach to AI, so not you as an individual, but the campus that you're on. Because what we're also finding is a lot of people are early adopters and they know how to use a lot of the tools and platforms and applications, but their campuses are not forward-thinking quite yet. And actually, it seems like we're moving in the right direction. So that's good. So we have, I would say we're in the middle, right? We have some good early adopters. We have some folks that want to learn more. And I'm actually very surprised by this one here. I actually thought that we would have less campuses with involvement in AI, but it looks like we're actually moving in the right direction. So that's a very positive sign for all of us that are in the room. So the very first question that we wanted to talk about was what initially motivated us or our organization to engage with AI. So beyond, right, it's practical, it saves time. AI is giving us the opportunity right now to challenge ourselves of how we learn, how we work, how we solve problems. Now this next part might be a little bit dramatic, but follow with me. In my opinion, in the last 150 years in the United States, there have been 3 technological transformational advancements. Okay, from the 1880s to the 1920s, you had the American Industrial Revolution, which is where we went from handcrafted single tools to build items to complete mass production. So we think about a chair, right? It might take 2 weeks to build a chair because it was handcrafted by a carpenter. And then all of a sudden we were able to power the machine to make the chair. And now what took 2 weeks to make a single chair, we can make hundreds of chairs in a day. Okay, we think about what we now go into Targets, Walmarts, all these stores, right? All this stuff is mass produced, and that's a byproduct of the American Industrial Revolution. From the 1990s to the early 2000s, the birth of the internet, right? Or what we call the World Wide Web. I don't think we need to go into any discussion about that. I think we're all very familiar with what the internet has done for us. And now, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, this birth of artificial intelligence. And this is not a trend anymore. It's not a fad. This is going to be with us for the rest of our lifetime and for the next several hundred years for sure until a newer technology comes out. So I tell you all that to say it is a good idea for us to stay on the forefront of reading articles and watching videos so that we're all kind of learning together about how AI is going to impact higher education and our field of work. The good news is, for the people that are in this room, it looks like we're already further ahead than most. These numbers are a little bit shocking to me. But only right now in the corporate workforce, 21% of people say they do some work with artificial intelligence. That number is, in my opinion, is extremely low, but it is the reality. 65% say they don't use much AI in their job at all. I know every morning when I get up, the first thing I do when I power on my computer at work is I bring up my ChatGPT tab, and I have it with me pretty much throughout the entire day. And then this one is even more staggering. 12% say they've never even heard about artificial intelligence. So you are in the right place. I do feel like in time over the next 5 to 10 years, right, we don't put any longer on our resumes we know how to use the internet. We know how to use Microsoft Office tools. It's already understood. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be the same thing. It's not going to be where you have to put in your resume that you know how to use AI tools. It'll automatically be intuitive. With that, I'll kind of go to the next slide.
Well, thanks for that. Before we get into this question, I guess, Matt, did you want to add anything you're good? Okay. Okay. Just checking. So we got two schools represented, our third being centers. And Matt, as the AI Council Chair, is working with all of our centers' locations. And so he's getting this like broad spectrum and understanding of how multiple institutions are approaching all of this. So can y'all talk a little bit for us about how your school or organization is approaching this? And Michelle, I think I'm going to start with you.
Yeah. This is on all the time. You're going to hear me breathing. So I'm at Marshall University. If you're not familiar with Marshall University, we are located in Huntington, West Virginia. And you would think that a school in Huntington, West Virginia would be way behind the times. 3 years ago, we got a new president. He used to be the CEO of Intuit, so Fortune 500 company. This man really, really wants us to start to use AI. We are a very AI-forward institution. I feel really lucky to be supported as we've headed through this journey with centers and to make it part of our daily lives, and my school supports this. Very early on, we were doing Copilot just because it integrated and they felt like it was the safest one, but I don't know, show of hands, Copilot isn't the smartest AI out there. I think a lot of us can agree. So a lot of us pay for it ourselves, or we do other things to make sure that we can get the information we need. We also have our institution a full campus focus. We provide micro degrees in AI already, so lots of opportunity to get more education and learn how to use it and use it correctly. I feel very, very fortunate. Sorry, guys.
Thanks, Michelle. Matt, you want to talk about another option?
Sure. So I'm going to talk about two perspectives kind of concurrently. Similar to Michelle, I'll speak from Cleveland State. I didn't mention I worked there for over 10 years as the marketing director. But from their perspective, a little bit different from Marshall, they are more focused on the academic side with their AI integration. So they're not super focused right now on integrating it and adopting it into the operational side of things. So we're talking about how to address the student impacts, how students are using it positively, negatively, but how to work it into curriculum, how do they build out their degree programs, how do they teach with it. This is all altering how instructors are approaching all of this. So CSU is more on the academic end. From more of a corporate standpoint for centers, we are approaching this specific year. We're in our second year now, so those are, you probably can't read those, but those are our roadmaps for AI. For our AI Council. This year specifically, we're focusing on actionable adoption, and a couple of the kind of cool ways I thought I'd mention that we're working on that. We're in the middle of a hackathon right now with all of our different institutional site teams. So that's coming together at the end of this month. That'll be finishing, but that'll in theory give us 9, 10 probably very scalable AI solutions that are coming from our user base, our site teams that we can then disseminate across the board and even string some of them together to build into workable, scalable workflows powered by AI. Another thing that we are doing this year, we've done a handful of trainings and presentations already, but we're concentrating that into an AI learning week coming up in June. We're going to focus 3 days, a couple presentations each day, again, to support adoption, support literacy amongst all of our staff, and really help to address the change management aspects of all of this. And just continue to build, because this technology just keeps scaling and changing, and we have new models every week.
Thanks for that orientation towards how your institutions are approaching it. Can y'all talk a little bit about how you as an individual kind of got into using AI in your work? Matt, you can kick this off.
So I initially got started. I'm going to give a little bit of the credit to NIRSA. Has anybody had like that aha moment with AI where you first saw it and you're like, oh my God, this is like revolutionary? Anybody? Am I the only one? Yeah. I'm going to credit NIRSA with that because my aha moment happened at the 2023 Marketing Institute for NIRSA. It was just a really simple, straightforward ChatGPT introduction style presentation. but just seeing it up on the screen and it doing just really simple things, 2 years ago, it seems like it was ages ago how advanced the technology has become since then. But that was like my major aha moment. So I credit NIRSA for that. But since then, I'm very much a learn by doing type of person. So I just dove in, started experimenting, started playing with first ChatGPT. And the more you use it, I find the more you start to identify ways you can use it, more opportunities in that way. So that's one of my recommendations that I give to anybody who says, how do I get started with all this? Pick one tool, start to play around with it and see what it can do. Try it some different ways. And I think you'll just start to naturally sort of expand and identify ways you can use it more.
Awesome. Pass that to Michelle, or she's got her own mic.
We began first using AI in really simple ways. I think most of the people in this room can agree it helped you write your emails better. I am responsible for submitting a monthly report to my school and to centers, and I'm a P3, so I have a third party that owns the building and they want reports. I have a staff full of people, very smart people who have graduate degrees, but they are terrible writers. So we started using it just simply to write better reports. Quickly after that, we started using it for brainstorming. It has a lot of knowledge. And we realized after a while that you can't just ask a straightforward question like I would ask Nick. You have to formulate it in a way where it's going to give you the answer. And it changes the way you think. So once we figured that out, we use it for a lot of brainstorming. It comes up in our meetings that, did you run this through? Have you asked? We set aside 5-10 minutes a meeting just to talk about what did you do that was cool this week. Share it with the group so that we can all use it. So just emails and brainstorming was our first kind of dipping our toes in.
Thanks for that. And I do want to invite y'all as we get into kind of the meat of our questions, if that triggers anything in your mind and you want to ask or expand or redirect, feel free to raise your hand so that we can get you involved in this conversation. We are trying to save some time for everyone to ask questions at the end, but don't wait if you've got an idea you want to throw out there for discussion. Can you guys talk a bit about early wins and maybe some resistance that you saw? And Michelle, do you mind starting with that?
Yeah, right away the early wins were, of course, better looking reports. Slicker reports that got to the point, got rid of jargon and things that a third party would understand. They don't live in our world, so I have to communicate to them in a way that they can understand where they're at. So that was a really early win. We prepared a lot of our ideas before discussing them in the team. In terms of resistance, I didn't get a lot of formal pushback at Marshall. Like I said, the hesitation was a little bit more personal, I think, across the team. Some people waited a little while and others dove right in. So, just eliminating some of that uncertainty. I heard a lot in the beginning about Skynet and Terminator. That came up in like every meeting, like, what's going to happen when Skynet takes over? So that is sort of going away. I think that has stopped. But that was a big concern in the beginning, that the machines were taking over. But I remind people all the time, if you don't tell it, it doesn't know. Or it's not that smart.
And to go off that, I'm going to start with the resistance that turned into a win. But maybe some of you had this happen to you, but I almost felt the first time I wrote an email, right, one of my emails, and I put it in a ChatGPT and it popped it out, I had this like, whoa, this is an email written way better than I could have ever written. And if I send this, people are going to know that I didn't write this. If there's 2 words in that email that I don't even know what it means. So I had this like guilt, right? Of like, I'm cheating. For those of you in the Nintendo, back in the 90s, in Nintendo, the up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B. I thought that is what I was doing with ChatGPT is I hit the jackpot for the code to cheat with, emails and work. And so I did. I had this guilt, and people would say like, I can't believe you're using ChatGPT to write an email. Like, doesn't assume faith. But the more that I learned about the different applications and the platforms, they're only as smart as the inputs that you put in, right? It's still your ideas. You're still directing what the outputs are going to become. And because of that, it is truly your own work that just happens to be a little bit smoother, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more professional. So now that I'm kind of moved past that, and I try to explain that to other people too, like it's still your own work because the system is only as good as you are.
Keep that money because I want you to start answering this question about surprises that you had when you were getting started in the early stages.
So I had a very unique experience. I remember when the first model of OpenAI or ChatGPT came out, right? And I started reading about it on CNBC and the Wall Street Journal, a lot of the different periodicals that I read. And I remember logging on and creating my account, and I, put in like can you tell me how to change my oil in my car? And it gave me like 4 steps. And I was like, this isn't good. Like, this is not helpful at all. Like, I know more about how to change the oil in my car than ChatGPT can. So I actually left it for probably a good year and a half. This would have been in probably 2022, 2023. And I left it, and I kind of told some people, like, I don't understand what this, whole artificial intelligence is all about. I don't feel like it's all that great. Well, fast forward to now, or within the last, let's say, year and a half, if you put in that same prompt of how to change your oil on your 2014 Honda Civic, you are going to get a 50-step process with pictures and, bolts that you need to undo and videos. And I mean, it is impressive, and it's only going to get better from here. So that was what surprised me, I think, most. Is at first I was kind of anti, and now I've drank the Kool-Aid and I bought it.
Thanks. Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say in many ways. The coolest thing that recently happened to me was my car ran out of oil, and when I was driving back from Cleveland, and I stopped at the gas station. I was like, I drove a 2015 GTI. What oil should I put in? And it took a picture of all the oil, and it was like that one, the one at the top right with the silver, And I was like, perfect. So I didn't have to call my dad. That's what would have happened to me. And be like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have oil in the trunk? So I didn't have to deal with all that. My father and I are on good terms. Yeah, it was really just the way to be more the smoother transition in writing. I have a lot of thoughts, and it just managed to make them a little more detailed and put them in order and help create clarity amongst my team. Also, I don't know how many directors in the room. I'm a director. Sometimes I can get a little lonely where I don't know how to do something, but I can't tell the staff that. So it's nice to have something to sort of like bounce their ideas off of. I don't know if you'll know that there's GPTs, and I'm going to speak specifically about ChatGPT because I know that one the best. But there are GPTs you can search up about leadership, and you can use that GPT to be like, I'm having a situation with an employee. This is what they did. How should I respond? What steps should I have them take? So that was one of the things I used it first. It was leadership and finding oil.
Well, and I just want to piggyback on that from an L&D standpoint. One of the things that actually one of our other centers professionals presented about earlier was difficult conversations. And so I have talked with our parent companies, vice president of IT, I probably have his title wrong, but they, our parent company is working on a lot of personalized, customized AI components inside their organization. And I've asked, can we work on something where I can give you, the parameters of our HR policies, and then also the best practices that we see in managing folks, so that our full-time staff could maybe have a place to practice difficult conversations and get some feedback in a safe space. So that's still just like an idea conception standpoint, but I know that for some things that are really, really hard for our people, it would be great to have a safe place to practice before you go out and do it with that, human, and there's going to be the real consequences of the things that you say and what directions you give them. Michelle, can you talk a little bit? And actually, I want to hear from all three of you. But what AI topics or use cases are your people interested about?
We are at a crossroads. We're getting kind of using it for all the normal stuff. But now we want to know how to make it integrate with some of the other things that we're using. So we have a colleague in Centers, and he was able to set up, how did he do it? AI listens to his conversations that he has on his teams, and it pulls out the tasks that he has to do for those conversations and puts it directly on his calendar. So those are the types of things that we're looking at doing now. Automating it so that it's a step ahead of us instead of me having to engage with it on a daily basis and then take that information and use it. I want it to book my plane tickets, and I want it to do a lot of things for me that I still don't have time to do. We're all getting really busy, and there's so many things coming at us. I checked my email this morning, and I have 875 emails because I didn't check it yesterday. So I wanted to get rid of some of that stuff for me. So that's where we're at. We're trying to figure out how to make it work in other areas of our lives so that we can focus on our work.
I'm going to switch slides here. So one specific use case, or I guess it's multiple use cases that we have found really valuable, saved me specifically a lot of time if any marketers in the room, or if you're creating content or you have student staff who have to create content for newsletters, social media, websites, any thought leadership, LinkedIn, whatever you have to create that content for. This is an entire workflow that uses five different AI tools plus some custom GPTs that I've worked up over a few months. And now I've shared with some other people in our company, and we're finding a lot of value. So I'm not going to explain this in any great detail because we don't have the time, but they can get really complicated and it looks really complex on the screen. But this actually probably saves me 50% on content creation, and you scale that up over a day, a week, months, a year. And I don't even know how to tell you how many hours that has saved me, but it's opened me up so that I can do other things. I can do more. I can be more productive because I'm saving this time. On creating one article, I can create 3 or 4, in a similar amount of time. So if you want to talk about that later, I'm happy to discuss it more, but that's just one really powerful use case that we implemented recently.
So I think what Matt and Michelle we're saying is that we're past this content creation, right? With just emails, general reports. One of the things that we've been working on, and Matt talked about this, is Centers is doing an AI Olympics or a hackathon. So at Cleveland State, one of the projects that we decided to take on is, I think I mentioned earlier, we work at Conference Event Services as well, and we get 20 to 25 RFP requests to host conferences or events on our campus per week. And those RFPs, to respond to those, can take hours, if not over a day, to respond to some of them. So what we did is sat in a room, and I'll be the first to admit I'm a journalism and communication undergrad and a sport management grad student. We taught ourselves how to write Python AI code through GitHub Copilot, and we've also used Claude AI. And so just the average person off the street can download these applications, and with a couple of YouTube videos and a couple of dummy books, can honestly start to write some of this code to make an RFP response tool. And we actually are in our second beta version of it. I know it will be submitted for the AI Olympics, and I'm hoping that we will.
He's going to beat me. He's going to beat me.
We're very competitive.
I can't believe you just told me what you're doing.
It's already down the road.
Give me a root now.
So we wrote up to this point about 450 lines of AI code, and it's an application-based program that will come up on your desktop, and we'll ask you for specific inputs. So like, when are the dates and times? What are they looking for? We put all that in, and within 10 seconds, it generates an RFP out that we can use as a use case to then send to do a request. So it already has pre-populated like our About Us page, all of our rules and regulations, all of the pricing, our executive summary. We don't have to recreate the wheel. It's already there. We just have to tailor it to the RFP that's given to us. The next step for us, and had another individual that's on our team who actually has some experience with code. He is going to write an API to our current program to talk to OpenAI that will automatically pull the key information out of an RFP that's submitted to us, and then it will just automatically fill it, and then it can go out right away. So we could really respond to hundreds of RFPs in a week, where before we could only maybe do 2 or 3. And then we also are going to take that, right? We work for centers, and we also work with Brailsford and Dunleavy. We can take this very unique RFP response tool, change some of the inputs, and those are the same RFP tools that we can scale. That when B&D is bidding on, a project at a different campus, they can use some of that same tools to help them cut down on time and efficiency and stuff to win more proposals and save time.
I want to pause here real quick. Anyone have any questions based off on what we talked about so far? Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
My big goal is using it for assessment. Is there anything that you decided to not put into AI? So, for example, I don't put any identifying factors, name, email, contact information, anything like with school. Have you found anything that's been helpful or anything else that you redact so you don't put this into Skype? Because that was our big concern, because our school has a medical school and everything. So information, data is, you can't protect it enough.
Absolutely. I'm going to give this to Matt because I feel like this would be a great place for you to also talk about the usage guidelines that came out of the AI Council.
So, yes, any personal private data that, might be present in that information of the data you're uploading, absolutely redact it out, delete it out. If you could anonymize any data, if you need some sort of unique identifier that you can then later on correlate back to a person or population, different demographics for statistical purposes or whatever the research might be trending. If you can anonymize it with a unique probe number or something like that, that's one way that you could kind of get around that. Aside from that, though, I think that's pretty much all we've typically done. We just remove any names, addresses, phone numbers, like any sort of contact information and personal private. Absolutely no medical information. You don't want to include any of that type of stuff, which, not to go down a rabbit hole, is very interesting when you start to hear things about ChatGPT introducing integrations with health systems. It's how are they going to do that? But that's a topic for another presentation. But no, I think that's good. We have, to Joe's point, we have a set of AI guidelines that we've implemented across the company. We're actually just in the process of updating those. We usually review them every year because everything changes so quickly. But we have when to use AI, when not to use AI. It includes some data, levels of security risk, how to assess different use cases if you're unsure, in addition to watching for bias and hallucinations and all that type of stuff that most of you have probably heard about when it comes to using AI tools. But did I answer your question? Hopefully.
I think you have to watch about putting proprietary information in there. Like business plans, I'm always careful of putting those types of things in there because you never know where the information is going to go. I don't have a problem with using the word Cleveland Stakes. I pull on website information and stuff that's already public knowledge. I think anything though that you have proprietary to your campus, that's where you probably need to have some conversations with the administration over here. Are you okay with us putting that out there?
Anyone want to jump in with another question? Okay, well then we're going to keep talking. Matt, I'm giving this back to you, I think. Do you kind of a brief response to this since you give the information from all of centers, campuses, and locations?
So I think we saw it live with the Menti meter polls that we took. Generally, I think right now adoption is pretty uneven across locations, and that's not anything that's unique to just higher ed. That's pretty much every industry right now when it comes to AI. If you're looking at it at a macro level like that, but you can even drill down and see the same type of uneven distribution with individual site teams, you have, if you think about the adoption bell curve, we have early adopters. I'm sure you guys do too. You have people who are at the higher end. They're interested. They might have dabbled a little bit, not super full on it. And then you have the ones who are totally resistant. And I will stress, our council is very confident and very outspoken in saying that all of those opinions are valid. We're trying to work to address those because we don't want to leave anybody behind. Ultimately, I think we're going to hit somewhat of a wall with AI technology where it's becoming more and more mainstream. More systems that we're already using are integrating it more and more into the tools and functions that they do. So I think at some point, some of the manual processes that we might be comfortable with are going to completely go away in lieu of AI integrations and automations that are built in. And then there won't be a choice. And what we really don't want to see is anybody being caught really off guard or really left behind. Because the longer you wait, the bigger that gap gets to get started and the more ground we have to catch up. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. And to that end, all of our new hires, when they join our company, we do give them, as part of their required training, they get a quick introduction to AI and then our AI usage guidelines as part of their onboarding and orientation. And the intent really is to close a skill gap, not to like win people over and make them love a tool that they might personally hate. But we're really committed to making sure that there's like a learning component so that folks are skilled in whatever the future of work looks like. Yeah, go ahead.
Since we're talking about guidelines, is it like centers is able to pass out guidelines to like their institutions? And what's your best practice if we all are using AI in some way, shape, or form? And you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a good point of using guidelines. Like how much go about going back to institutions? Who should we talk to or build their guidelines in that regard, just in case, elite or AI people are not supposed to roll on AI and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind giving the history? No, you, Matt. Will you give the history of when you were at that conference and you kind of heard and got some recommendations of how to move forward with your organization for emerging AI? And then Michelle, you might have some different insight of how Marshall approached it since it's such a wide adoption there.
So in terms of, I think what you're referring to at the conference 2 years ago when I went to it, there still is a lot of talk about AI councils, and that's just one term for it, but it's basically a cross-functional team at your site or your institution, because you want varying perspectives on this in terms of whether you're for it or against it, where you work within your organization, the type of work you do, et cetera, how to formulate an AI council. Part of that is developing the AI guidelines. And there's definitely some core elements that you want to include: how to handle data, use cases, good or bad, not to use it, et cetera. How to identify hallucinations, and so on. As we develop ours, though, we're in a little bit of a unique situation. It's always a little bit in flux because we are a partner of an institution and not an institution ourselves. We are amongst ourselves, but our guidelines have to be somewhat broad, almost like an umbrella, so that we can incorporate anything that a specific institution is like. It might differ. We're going to defer to the institution what they want on how to handle a specific situation or use case. So there's almost, I don't want to say there's two versions, but they're broad when we can, for what we disseminate out, and we can get a little bit more specific for our specific site teams and disseminate that out. Again, just so that we can accommodate whatever the specific university might have.
Check to see if your university already has one. If you're not sure, look into it. And if they don't, be the change you want to see. Because this is not something that like they can wait around and it's going to happen to us. It's happening. And I think that a lot of times is like a mindset that people haven't gotten on board with yet. The internet happened regardless. I mean, whether we wanted to or not. And this is the same thing. This is going to be something that will be so, it's going to be so involved in everything that you do in the future. How can we wait? How can we work for institutions a forward thinking. Like that's what colleges are for. And have them not, wait back and see what's going to happen. They really need to get in front of it. And if they don't have something like we have internally at centers on your campus, start one.
And I think we've got some QR codes to resources a little later, so we'll make sure we get those up. But I think that might link to some of those associations that Matt was referencing as a resource for how it helped inform how we were going to organize and guide.
So I literally went to my local library and got a Python for Coding for Dummies. And I downloaded VS Code, which is an application that you can use to code in. I downloaded the GitHub Copilot app. And you can literally talk to the GitHub Copilot app and say, this is what I want to do. And it will generate the Python code for you. And it is so simple. Like I did not realize, I know I'm not trying to put coders out of business. But I know that that's a very real, apprehension in the world right now, that a lot of folks that are going to school for coding realize that now anybody can do that with some of these AI tools. And I'm living proof of that. Like I said, I have a sport management degree in computers. I'm okay with them, but I'm not a coder by any stretch of imagination. One of the first things I did actually is in the Dummies book is it says, we're going to build a game of Tetris. And within 10 minutes, you can build the old 1980s, 90s Tetris. And it's crazy. So I would encourage everybody in this room, and we'll talk a little bit about this again, pick a platform, pick an application, pick a use case, and say, I want to try to explore more about this. Yes, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to run into roadblocks. I can't tell you when we got that 400 lines of code put in the first time we ran the application, there was an error. And I'm like, great. Not only do I not know how to read this 400 lines of code, how am I going to figure out where the problem is? Guess what? You put it into one of those coding agents, it can find it within 5 seconds of what your problem is. And it's usually just a couple of symbols or characters. You fix it and you're off and running again. So that's what I would encourage. And that's a win for me that I hope I can pass along to you all to do.
Michelle, talk about your institutional.
So, I'm a Marshall grad, undergrad and grad school. I've been working here now since 2010, and I bleed green. I'm 100% on board with Marshall, and we are like the little brother of WVU. We get zero attention. They take over the entire state. Sorry to my WVU friends that may be in here. You know how I feel about you. So the fact that my institution was deciding to be such an early adopter and just explore AIs in ways that are practical for work. The fact that you can go over, you don't even need to be a student. You can go over to the business school and enroll in a hyper-credential in AI. You can do it online. If any of you aren't sure, you could be a Marshall student too. You just go online and take a hyper-credential in AI and learn something new. And guess what? You have certificates as you graduate from Marshall. And I love that for you. So that really, this broader institutional commitment that came from Marshall was so pivotal. When I went to my BPG and I said, we're doing this, I'm presenting, I'm going to Cleveland for a conference with Matt, and I'm all in. She was like, go forth. Do it. You can do it. That makes me so proud. And it makes me proud because I'm an alumni and because I have all this school pride. I hope they all have school pride for where you work. I probably have the next level because I graduated twice from there. And I just, Marshall's everything to me. So that was probably the thing I've been most proud of. Proud of my school.
I want you to answer this and then answer the next question.
Okay. I have warm fuzzies. I'm going to say probably the thing I'm most proud of so far as it relates to AI is our council. That was, as Joe said, that was something that I immediately identified that I wanted to do. And the amount of work that we've done in a year and a half, year and 2/3, has been really, very exciting, very transformational. It's really cool to see that as I'm having conversations continually, especially with people who at first were like, I don't know. And then I see them a couple months later and they're like, oh, I'm doing this thing now. You can actually see the growth. So it's very satisfying to see. One thing I will say is kind of a dumb example, but I'm proud of it. Just to echo what Nick said, If you haven't tried vibe coding, if you know what that is, it's just coding through natural language prompting. I vibe coded a time tracker so that I can track my time when I'm working in different clients, and I use it every day. It works awesome. I can get reports out of it, and it took me 2 hours of iteration, and boom, I have now my own time tracking application. So if you haven't tried vibe coding yet, and you want to see something really cool that you can bring to life really fast to really demonstrate the capabilities of what AI can do, that would be something I'd suggest trying. Okay. Oh, no. Sorry. Okay, so our long-term plans for our roadmap and integration. This is our 2026 roadmap. Don't try to read it, it's tiny. As I said earlier, this year, our roadmap is particularly focused on primarily actionable adoption, and then really trying to get at the heart of addressing the people behind everything. Namely, change management, right? Like anything that we're trying to implement, new technology, workflows, SOPs, all that kind of stuff, is largely driven by behavior change, right? And that's hard. People don't like change. Change is really difficult. So our roadmap is restructured from last year. We've got 6 overarching kind of objectives, but those are the 2 really big focuses. Because we're doing the hackathon, Michelle's idea, we're capitalizing on that. It's hard to go over it. Don't kill me.
Did you hear he's talking shit right here?
And I'm a judge. I can okay. So we've got the hackathon. We're capitalizing on friendly competition to try and get some adoption going. We're doing a learning week. We have some other things planned just to make it more fun, give people more entry points to just figure this stuff out. In the very least, right now, I think that we still have a decent percentage of people who are like, no, I want nothing to do with this right now. Respect. We're not going to force it. I do think, like I said, there's going to be a limit, but we want to understand those perspectives. Just to reiterate that, we want to understand and really get behind. I don't want anything to do with AI because of the environmental impacts. Talk to me more about that. I want to know specifically what it is about that. And then, maybe we can provide some resources to help offset if it's water consumption. Maybe we can figure something out. Or we can find really, really simple use cases, or at the very least, just learn about it. Even if you're not using it, again, just so people are not caught off guard. So this is our full 2026 roadmap. I intentionally left Q4 pretty blank because, as I found out last year, as we got into the year about halfway, so much had changed that the latter half of the year didn't completely change anyway. So this is very much in flux, but we revise this every year, and that's currently where we are.
I'm watching the clock, guys. So I want to flip ahead to a couple questions. Can you pull up the one about how you're developing your own capacity with the QR code on there? And then I'd like to hear from each of you on how you are kind of taking charge of your own learning and development when it comes to this topic. So Nick, can I start with you?
Yeah, I think the big thing is to stay curious. Right? AI is overwhelming. There are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of platforms, applications out there. And I see a new one on the news or the articles that I read. So what I would tell you to do is start small at a very granular level. Pick a couple of programs or platforms that you want to solve something for in your everyday life, whether that's personal and professional, and then hone in on that, right? Really get to know that program, right? All the way down to just how to download it and then how they use it. And then watch YouTube videos, read articles on it. There's so much information out there. And then once you start to build that skill set, it'll turn into another skill set and say, oh, I want to branch out to another use case application. And now I'm going from, VS Code to GitHub Copilot to, another application that's out there. So don't let AI overwhelm you, because it overwhelms me. So I start small and I try to remember I'm just trying to solve what's right in front of me, and then I'll keep building skills and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michelle.
I get good at it in a lot of ways. Also, just starting. I've had look back at some of the things I was asking in the beginning. Oh, so rad. Very straightforward questions with no context whatsoever. And I remember arguing with it. To then be arguing with it, you're like, yo, that's not what I said. That's not blue, it's green. It's like, sorry, oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. That was a little embarrassing. But since then, I've just developed my own capacity through, I listen to a lot of podcasts, just have been, I read a lot of books, help find a book. Here's a really good tip, I think, if we can all agree. Find a book that gives you steps on how to prompt. That's a really good first step, because a prompt is a new way of thinking, and it's a way of thinking that we've never used before. There's one called it's CRIT. It's the AI Driven Leader by Schwartz, and it's going to be on our list at the end. Yeah, this is a really good framework to how to prompt, and I use this all the time now. It just comes naturally. You just tell the problem. You assign in a role. Like if you're having a health problem, but you are a doctor, right? Interview it. And the best advice that I can possibly give you is, once you've given it that, ask it what it doesn't know. Ask it to ask you questions. And here's another pro tip. Don't just ask it to ask you questions. Give it a limit. Say, can you ask me 3 questions about what I'm giving you so that you can answer this question better for me? If you just ask me questions, it'll just keep going. If you don't know this about all those EPT, they're just like, oh, let's keep talking. So tell it, I want 3 questions for me to answer that will help you answer this question better. That's been my number one thing that has really served me well. And then being on this team has been eye-opening, and we meet all the time, and we actually have a lot of fun. Those meetings are the ones that I enjoy the most in my week, and we just have a good time, and we're all kind of like nerds in this space, so really into it.
I would second all of that. Go back to the resources in case anyone wants them again. I follow a lot of the ones that are in here are the ones that I follow. So same thing. I'm very cognizant not to be overly reliant on it. I don't want to. You probably heard the research starting to come out a while ago. Students can't think critically. People can't think critically because they're too reliant on AI. So I'm very cognizant of that. But also what I found too, which I would stress with this, is the idea of you learn through teaching, right? Doing stuff like this. You're essentially teaching a technology what you want, and over time it learns, just like a person, just like a student does. So I very much keep that in mind about thinking critically about my approach to using AI. So I would stress that, keep that in mind whenever you're even the simplest prompt or the simplest use, just keep that in mind.
But maybe your favorite way to prompt, I think, is slightly different. So yeah, you tell us your fave, and then we'll open it up for some additional questions.
I mean, it's nothing mind-blowing, but anytime that I go in right out, I go back to my personal use, with whether it be auto-related items. But I always tell the system, you are an expert auto mechanic with 20 years of service, right? Like anything, whatever you, if I need to, let's say somebody gave me some type of medical term, and it's for the heart. I would say you are a expert cardiologist in this specific area. But I also need you to tell me, when you explain this to me, it needs to be in layman's terms, not in doctor terms, right? You can get the doctor terms that no one's going to understand unless you're in that field, or you can get the layman's terms that's going to make sense to me.
Well, thank you very, very much for being here. And Michelle, thanks for organizing it. Really appreciate that. So y'all have a great conference. Thanks again.